Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I will be doing an unhaul. So I believe I am unhauling about 20 books today. We are having a yard sale in September. So I figured I'd go ahead and go through my books and get rid of all the ones that I no longer want. I have been buying books a little bit more frequently, and so of course I want to make sure I have room on my shelves, and I'm just a little bit less picky about the books that I get rid of. So I will go ahead and go through these books based off of genre for the most part. There are a couple that I will be giving to my mom that she's interested in, and then I will check with my sister to see if she's interested in any of them, but all the rest will go ahead and be sold at our yard sale. So I will go ahead and start with the genre that has the least amount of books and then go up to the genre that has the most. The first genre is nonfiction, and I only have one book that I am getting rid of, and that is So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson. This is a nonfiction that I did tab, so I'll have to go ahead and take those tabs out before I get rid of it. I thought it was a slightly interesting concept or book. It seemed to focus on people who said things on the internet or made mistakes on the internet, and were, pretty much publicly shamed by, the public all over the world, and to see how that affected their lives, and if they deserved it, or if people went too far, things like that. For some reason, I had expected this book to be a little bit more humorous. So it wasn't giving me the humor that I was hoping from. I thought I heard that this author put humor in his books, but not that much. So it's just not a book that stuck with me, or is a concept that I'm overly interested in. So I will go ahead and pass it on and see if someone else is interested in it. All right, next we have a couple thrillers. The first one is an Agatha Christie book, Murder on the Orient Express. I got this book for $1 at Goodwill, and was just interested in trying out a Agatha Christie book. The cover is just the movie cover, so it's nothing super special. The book didn't do much for me. I'm not a huge mystery person, especially something with so many characters. I'm just really bad with names. So they'll be saying like, so and so did this, and remember they did that, and I was like, no, I have no idea who we're talking about. So it's just not, the kind of reading experience I thrive in. I do have another Agatha Christie book, And Then There Were None, which is like one of her most popular, and it seems like there's a lot of other books that are kind of like inspired by that concept. So I kind of want to go ahead and read that. But otherwise, Agatha Christie is just not an author that I'm super interested in. The second nonfiction is Hope Never Dies by, who wrote this? There's no author name. Oh, wait. Andrew Andrew Schaefer. This is once again a book that I bought because I thought it would be kind of really funny, but it was actually kind of bland. I can't really remember what the concept was. I thought it would kind of focus on Obama and Biden's relationship, but I don't think Obama made too many appearances in this. So it didn't quite give me the friendship or the banter that I was hoping for between these two. And once again, I'm just not like a huge mystery person, so the plot itself wasn't all that interesting. I don't even remember what the plot was. All right, up next we have two classics that I will be getting rid of. One is one that I've had on my shelf forever, and that is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I believe this follows a young girl who finds a secret garden, and I don't know what she does there. I read this probably in like middle school or even elementary school. I don't really have any interest in rereading it. Plus, this isn't like a stunning copy or anything. It's just kind of one of those, you know, mass market paperbacks that you can just pick up maybe at like a Scholastic fair because it's Scholastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pass it on, and it's really dusty and it's almost making me want to sneeze or something. So it's definitely not a book that I've been looking at or anything like that, or will be missed. The second classic is Jane Eyre by Emily Bronte, or Charlotte Bronte, not Emily. Charlotte Bronte. And this is a book that I read earlier this year. I ended up just finishing it up on audiobook to help me get through this book. I didn't hate it, but I don't foresee myself rereading it. Also, this is a copy that I once again got for a couple bucks at like Value Village. So it's kind of ugly and I don't need it on my shelf. As you can tell, I'm not like giving the synopsis for all of the books. I mean, for some of them, I just like assume you know them, like Jane Eyre. And other ones, it's just because I don't remember them anymore. But next we're gonna go ahead and get into the historical fiction books. The first two books are the books that I'll be giving to my mother. And then there is one more. The first one is called The Reader by Bernard Schlink. This was a book that I read a long time ago. It came in like a big box. I think one of my mom's cousins, some family member, goes ahead and has sent her some boxes of books over the years, and this was in there and I read it. I thought it was somewhat interesting. It's not the type of book that I often read. It was a relationship between a young boy and a older woman. Now let me check how old he is. I mean, it's definitely too young, but let me see. 15, so he was 15. So yeah, so she's technically a pedophile. And years pass, and he does not see her until he is a young lawyer, and sees that she is on trial, I believe, for like war crimes, because I think she worked in the Jewish concentration camps during World War II, and she is keeping a secret that is making her case not go so well. So he, I think, is trying to be her lawyer to kind of try and figure out why she's not trying to defend herself. The next book is a book that I read in a vlog and ended up DNFing, and that is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is a book that follows two different timelines. We follow one in the present day of a woman who caught her husband cheating and decides to go to London on their trip alone and finds a vial that belongs to the apothecary that we follow in the second timeline, which takes place in the 1900s. Let me check. The 1800s, the late 1800s. This is an apothecary that sells poisons to women who want to kill their men. I just found that the story was a little boring, and you know, the characters, I wasn't really interested in them or their woes. So I ended up DNFing it. I think I ended up getting 100 pages in. I don't remember how far I got. But you know, I'm just not a big historical fiction girly. So this just didn't work out for me, but hopefully my mom likes it. And the last historical fiction book is slightly historical fiction, but I think it goes up into present day. And that is Homegoing by Ya Gaisa. And this, unfortunately, it was mostly the formatting that didn't work out for me. I really enjoyed the concept of the story, but it does follow a different character further down the family tree. every single time. So it kind of had a short story set up, and that you only spent a little bit of time with each character, and that often doesn't work out so well for me. We start out with two sisters who live in Africa, half sisters, so they've never met, and I don't think they even know the other one exists. And one of them is married off to a white man who works in the slave trade, and the other one is sold as a slave to America. And we follow their descendants throughout history to see how different their lives are at this, just resulting from this breaking point, these two very opposite lives that these sisters got to live. I know this is a really popular book, so I of course want to go ahead and pass this on to someone else who will love it. All right, second to last category, which is romance. I have 4 books in this category. The first one is one I recently discussed in a vlog that I absolutely did not get along with. Very disappointed. And that is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This is supposed to be kind of like enemies to lovers, fake dating, and it was just a very boring, repetitive, if not outright annoying story. So I did not vibe with the characters. I did not vibe with the fact that I thought this would take place in Spain, and maybe 30% of it takes place in Spain. Most of it is in New York. So I felt our main character, Catalina, was really kind of immature and annoying and really stubborn in not the right kind of way. And when they finally got together, I was like, okay, whatever. Can this story be over yet? And plus it's so long. It's like over 400 pages, which for a contemporary romance does not need to be a thing. So definitely getting rid of this. It is a hype book. A lot of people do seem to like it or hate it, depending. It seems to be one of those you know, controversial books where, you know, you're on one side or the other. So hopefully someone who will love it will go ahead and pick it up at the yard sale, or maybe my sister wants it. Right, so the next book is Lore and Lust by Carla Nicole. This is a first book in a series. I ended up reading the second book as well, but I read it on Kindle Unlimited. This is a male-male romance. It's a paranormal romance between 2 vampires, and I just thought that the book was a bit uneventful. I didn't really connect to the characters and their relationship. And after reading book 2, I just didn't really care where the story was going. I know I'm never going to reread this. I'm probably not going to sit on here and recommend it a lot, which is unfortunate because, you know, I believe this is a debut novel for a Black female author. So of course, you know, keep an eye out for her. I definitely will as well, because, you know, authors are always improving. But this story just didn't do it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to see if anyone else falls in love with this cover the way I did, and hopefully falls in love with the story more than I did. All right, so the next book is another book that is really hyped that I just couldn't get along with, unfortunately. And that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a female romance about a photographer from New York coming back to photograph her sister's wedding and her stepsister's maid of honor. I once again just didn't get along with the main character. I didn't find their relationship believable. I wasn't quite sure why they liked each other, especially I didn't know why Claire liked Delilah, because Delilah was very immature. She was very much like, woe was me all the time, like, my life is harder than everyone else's, no one else's problems are as bad as mine, and can you even call your problems real problems? And I'm like, yeah, Yeah, you can. So that was really annoying. She kept pushing people away and then was wondering why people didn't want to be around her. And I was like, newsflash, it's because of you. So just, I'm very character driven. So if I don't vibe with the characters, then I'm not going to vibe with their romance. So, I mean, I tabbed it a couple times. So there was a couple lines that stood out to me, but other than that, hopefully someone else will love it as much as pretty much everyone else seems to. And the last romance is a fantasy romance, and that is A Deal with an Elf King by Elise Kova. This was one of those books where you get like 3/4 of the way through and you're like, wait, let's take a moment and see what has happened so far. And the answer is nothing. So this was another very uneventful book, another one of those books where you're like, wait, now you're in love all of a sudden after like barely any interactions at all. So it wasn't quite a believable romance for me. The writing wasn't anything special. I didn't really dig the world building. And once again, it was a rather boring read. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on. I think this book was disappointing for a lot of people, but hopefully it falls into the right person's hands. Right, I just realized that I have a contemporary book that was hiding under my fantasies, so I didn't even like notice it, but here it is. We Contain Multitudes by Sarah Henstra. This was a book that I read like years ago. I think it's a romance between two boys in high school. I think some people think it's problematic because I think one's a freshman and one's a senior, which is technically sketchy. So I don't remember like loving it too much or anything, or being in love with any of the characters. I've been meaning to get rid of it for like a while, but I hardly ever get hardbacks, so I was honestly just keeping it because it was like a hardback and was able to use it as like the end of like up against my books so that they would stand better. But whatever, I was making excuses to keep this because it was a hardback, but now we have other hardbacks, so we're gonna get rid of it, and maybe someone else, another high schooler who wants to fantasize about being with a senior or something, can get it. All right, last category is fantasy. So I have 2 standalones. Well, I guess one's part of a series, but I only have the first book. And then I have 2 completed series as well. The first book is A Wrinkle in Time. This is the first book in a series by Madeline Linger. I once again probably read this back in elementary school, and the only thing I remember is being utterly confused by this story. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. And I think I watched the movie a few years ago as well and just wasn't really blown away by the story. So I know I'm never going to reread it. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on because it seems like a well-known story. So maybe someone's kid will want to give it a shot. The next standalone is a chonker, and I almost feel bad getting rid of it because I'm like, look at this big book I own. But you know, it just wasn't that great of a story, and that's American Gods by Neil Gaiman. And there's a bookmark in here because my sister started reading it, so I will check with her to see if she wants to continue. This is very much a traveling story. We have our main character who recently got out of jail and found out that his wife died in a car accident while performing a certain act on his friend who died as well. So he's like, okay, well, that's not the welcome I was hoping for. But he meets this old god who recruits him to help him, I don't know, gather the other gods so that they can fight the new gods. I think that's, I remember by the end I was like, I don't know what the purpose of this story was. And maybe it just went over my head. You know, maybe I'm just not smart enough for it. But it was also just so long, and sometimes I felt like it was slightly disconnected because we would get like these flashbacks to other god stories and I couldn't tell like how it connected with the actual story or anything. So it's just a little bit long and a little bit boring, but I'm definitely proud of myself for reading this because I did not DNF it. I finished. All right, then for the first of the series, I'm kind of bummed to be getting rid of this because I really enjoyed the first book. In fact, in both of these series, I really enjoyed the first book, but then when it continued on, it just it felt a little flat for me. So the first one is going to be Rey Bear by Jordan Fueco. I really enjoyed book one. We are following our character Tarisai. Her name is Tarisai, and we're following her. She grew up in a isolated setting, just her and some tutors, and occasionally her mother, who she referred to as the lady. Yeah, the lady. She referred to as the lady. And eventually the lady tells her that she is going to go try out to be one of the prince's 11 council members, I believe they're called. And once she becomes a council member, she has to kill him. So this has some African mythology in it. I did enjoy the found aspect in the first book, and just thought it was an interesting story overall. I liked our main character in this book, but in book two, I felt that our character changed a lot, and that it was supposed to seem kind of like personal growth, but I felt like really what she was doing was isolating herself from everyone around her and taking all the burdens on to her own shoulders, and it was not paying off. And so it was kind of frustrating, and I felt like she was just regressing to the person she was before she built trust with those around her. And also the ending was relatively anticlimactic. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on. Of course, this is a YA story about a young Black girl by a Black woman. So, you know, I'm sure there's someone out there who would love to read with this representation in it. And for the last series, I am getting rid of A Curse So Dark and Lonely, or what's this called? The Curse Breaker series? I can't even remember. Let's see if it says. It doesn't. Oh well. Bridget Kemmerer is the author. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, YA story. I liked the first book because I really liked our main character, whatever her name is, Harper. She has cerebral palsy, so I did like the disability rep in this. I like that she was a really strong female character. I did like the two male characters, Gray and Ren, as well for the most part. So I went ahead and jumped into the other books, which unfortunately went downhill. One, Leah Mara is one of my least favorite characters. I don't want to say of all time, but it was incredibly infuriating for the author to write such a strong, competent character in Harper, and then to create Leah Mara, who was very weak, very dependent on other people, specifically on Gray, which made her very reliant on a man. And I was like, okay, so you said feminism, but then you were like, wait, that's too much feminism. And then I also felt like Harper got a little bit weaker as well. And in the last book, there were so many open endings where I actually was like, she has to be coming back to this world, because we're like, okay, so we have all these riots, we have people that are like against you. Are we not going to address that? Also, we have these other creatures that were introduced that we're just not going to do anything at all with. And also, I mean, are they going to return to their worlds? Are they going to stay here? Are they okay with that now? Or it was just a lot of unanswered questions by the end of this, and the characters just became kind of lame by the end. So I am definitely going to go ahead and get rid of the series because it just did not end on a high note. So I probably wouldn't recommend people getting into it unless they like weak female characters who are really annoying and only get tough after they spend the night with a man. All right, guys, so those are all the books that I'm planning on unhauling. I probably won't do any big unhauls for a while, just because I am a little bit more picky about the books that I buy these days. And these are honestly books that I've had for quite a few years. I did like a really deep cleanse, deeper than I have for a while. But it was really fun to be able to go ahead and just go through why I'm getting rid of these books. And I really hope that they fall into the hands of people who will really love them. All right, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching today. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.